trying to see if I can get, this is yours, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna see if we can get it right.
So I'm a pastor's wife, and I know that if this were happening with my husband right now, he would be obsessed with the technology. And that would be what we would talk about at lunch, too. So rest easy. Rest easy. The Spirit of God is in this place. I sensed it immediately. There's a joy here that you don't see in every church. There's a mixture of ages and worship styles and that you don't see. This is a blessed church. The special music. So I'm one of those people that if you bring kids up, I'm gonna cry. Like if the kids come up, I will cry. So I had already cried a little bit with the kids, and then the song was so beautiful. That must have been difficult to get through, but we've all lost people, and we need that message that they're being held in heaven. Thank you for the donations. The Wellhouse goes through some paper. We really do. Very quickly, quite a bit. So thank you. Our cars will be filled, and our hearts will be filled by the time that we leave today. Thank you, Kelly. Where's Kelly? Thank you, Kelly, for helping me find the church. She met me at the Home Depot. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Brandon, Pastor Brandon, for letting me be here today. I'm glad to be here. So I'm from the Wellhouse. We are a Christ-centered nonprofit ministry. We are not far from you. It took me about an hour to get here today. We are in St. Clair County, and we work specifically with survivors of human trafficking. So our mission at the Wellhouse is to help with rescue, but primarily to offer opportunities for restoration to women who have survived sex trafficking. And that I think he's got something together.
Oh, we're there. Oh.
That's
I'm touching again now.
all right. I think I'm going to come over here because I'm going to try to do this with the little mouse. That's tenacity. You got to have that as a pastor. You got it. So, like I said, our mission at the Wellhouse is to offer opportunities for restoration. Nobody's there by force. Everybody's there because they want to be. And just like the Lord offers us opportunities, and it's up to us whether or not we accept those opportunities, it's the same way at the Wellhouse. So today we'll talk a little bit about human trafficking, just a little bit. And then we'll talk a lot more about what our ministry does. And I'd also like to share with you a few ideas of how we might partner together as ministry partners. So I'm also thankful that Erin's here with me, my good friend Erin. So I hope you have a chance to meet her. And she has graciously put some information at the back table as well. So if you're curious and want to learn more about human trafficking, she's got that information there. But what is it? We hear a lot about it nowadays, and that's a good thing. One of the reasons that we're hearing more about it is because more and more people are standing up and saying no more. Not in America. We're not going to allow this to happen in our schools and in our towns and even in our churches. But another reason that we're hearing more about it is, quite frankly, it's growing. It's a very fast-growing criminal industry. Why? The internet. The internet has made trafficking very possible, very cloakable, very secret. There are a lot of things now being done on phones more so than computers, because the FBI can easily break into a computer. They can recover a hard drive of a computer that's been sunk in a lake, but they can't get into phones quite as easily. And so phones are really kind of the place where a lot of human trafficking is taking place. It is slavery, basically. It is one person selling another person, sometimes for labor, sometimes for other things. At the Wellhouse, we see all kinds of people, but every woman was a victim of sex trafficking. And like I said, it's a fast-growing industry, just like a person who was a drug trafficker. They would sell the drug. That's what trafficking is. It's selling something. Well, human trafficking is the selling of humans. And so you can see a little bit about this, There are about 1,000, we say beds. There are about 1,000 places in 1,000 beds in America where a woman can go if she's survived trafficking. There are only 100, under 100 for males. So, and trafficking definitely happens with women and men, girls and boys. This is who we are. We're about 11 years old. We were started by a survivor of human trafficking that was trafficked all along I-20, from Atlanta through Birmingham up into Memphis and back. And that's part of how human trafficking works, is that if you're kind of on the move, it's harder for law enforcement to find you and stop it from happening. So she started that. We're closer to 600 people now that have lived out at the Wellhouse. We're in St. Clair County, kind of the Odenville, Springville area, and, oops, let's see. Okay, no, that's how I did it last time. There we go. Okay, so, so these are the things we do. We have a hotline. So it's a 24-hour hotline that's manned by somebody. People call from all over the United States. We currently have 2 women on campus that are from other countries outside of the United States. We always have 1 or 2. And there's the number right there. Can you see it? It's kind of in a light blue tint. You might not be able to see it well. You might want to program that into your phone. My theory is that if you've got the resource, God might use it.
Amen.
And I'll tell you about a friend of mine. So he's a guy, he was at a Burger King, and he was familiar with the Wellhouse and what we did. And he called me and he said, hey, I think I'm seeing something. I'm not sure. What do I do? You know, do I just go up to this guy and this girl? And I said, well, what are you seeing? He said, well, it just doesn't look right. She doesn't look good. She doesn't look healthy. She's crying. And this big guy's kind of hovering around her. And I don't know what to do. And so I said, well, just wait, you know. And what I would normally advise somebody is call the police, you know. But he waited, the guy left. So now it's just the girl. What do I do? So I said, well, just write down our number. Just write down our 800 number and just put it on a napkin, slide it to her and say, hey, if you ever want help, these people can help. And you know, she called that number and I picked her up at the Burger King.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was right. And I think the Lord uses it. When you have the resource, the Lord might put someone in your path. So we love what we do. There's never a cost to anybody for what we do. And let's see, that's a little bit about what we do. It is a mixture of many different things. It takes all kinds of things to help somebody recover from this. Many times somebody's coming from not a good home situation, and so there might be some therapy to do along those lines. Many times somebody might be coming from, they may have been a runaway, and so maybe they didn't finish high school, and so we can work on that. Let's get that diploma. Most of the women in the program at this point are now doing college courses and kind of working in that direction. But it takes all of those things, including medical. So we have an on-site clinic at the Wellhouse. It's run by UAB School of Nursing, and they see all kinds of things. They're seeing traumatic brain injuries. They're seeing broken bones that didn't heal correctly. They're seeing some really bad things. A trafficker, I used to think that traffickers were just completely high, intoxicated, addicted to drugs, and that's why they acted this way. And I don't so much think that anymore. Now I think it's more of a greed thing. There is a level of intimidation that happens. I know 2 women at the Wellhouse that were forcibly electrocuted by their trafficker. Just as that intimidation to do what they're asking them to do. I know 2 that were hit by their trafficker's car, hit them, and they've been in our clinic. I know of 1 woman that hit her trafficker with the car. So these are our programs, and I'll go over kind of what we do, but that's just a little snapshot. We have a 63-acre campus, and when we bought it, it was just a field, and we've been able to build our little homes on the campus. But this is a word from a survivor. You know, it happens in so many different ways, but what trafficking shares for every victim are these things: force or fraud or coercion. You know, we've heard about prostitution all of our lives, right? It's in the Bible. We think about Rahab. You know, she was a prostitute. She was able to marry a man from the tribes of Israel. She ended up in the Hebrew Hall of Fame. And this isn't exactly that. This is force. This is by force. And so we're seeing a lot of abuse. That's a little bit about us. And these are our programs, and I'll go through them one by one. So immediately when someone comes in, we found a need for them to be in a place that honors the level of trauma that they've been through. So rather than going straight into a group home, they go to a little apartment that's on our campus where it's one staff member and her, just 1-to-1. Sometimes, like now, when we're slammed, it can be 1-to-2. But the idea is just relax. Maybe you need sleep. Maybe you need food. Maybe you just need to talk, take walks, talk. They usually stay there about 2 weeks. And then after about 2 weeks, things have calmed down. They're beginning to stabilize. And then they come over to this house, and we call this our immediate shelter. And so they stay there about 90 days, and there's a lot of work to be done there. You start therapy at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. There's substance recovery classes. There's a lot of work about getting your identification back. One of the hallmarks of human trafficking is that a trafficker will ask you to hand over your identification. And so those things are lost. Most of the time your driver's license is lost. No birth certificate, no social security card, most of the time, not all of the time, but we work really hard at getting those things back. Lots of Bible study, lots of introduction to the Lord. Not everybody at the Wellhouse was not raised in a Christian home. Some were. Some know the Lord when they come to the Wellhouse. So it can be just kind of a reconciliation there. Many do not. And so they have the opportunity to hear. And I can testify that the Lord is just close. The Lord is close at hand to the women at the Wellhouse. We don't have to work that hard. I mean, God is waiting for them. God reveals himself to them. We just kind of stand back and watch. This is what I call our core program. So after somebody's been at that first house for about 90 days, they're invited to come be a part of this program. And this is a year. It's got to be a year. It really should probably be more than a year. But it's very person-centered. So what do you want to work on in this next chapter of your life? Maybe you've got family that you want to reconcile with. Well, maybe you want to work on that. Maybe you want to get a college degree. Let's work on that. Maybe you want to get a job and start commuting back and forth from the Wellhouse to work. Let's work on that. So it's very much like, what do you want to do next? And working with them on that. It's such a great thing to see, because it's like, I always think of it as like shades over a window. It's like when they first come, the shades are kind of closed. And in this program, I start to see like, it's like the future kind of opens up. I'm more than my story. You know, I'm much more than what happened to me. I'm all these things, and I could be all of these things. So it's a happy place to be. And these are our apartments. So we built these a couple years ago, and those are transitional apartments. So you have to apply to live there. There's a $200 a month rent. It might have been raised to $250, but anyway, it goes into a savings account for you. So you kind of build up that nest egg. And so it's the idea is, well, get used to paying some rent, save some money. You've got to have a job to live there. You've got to have your own transportation to live there, but you still have some case management and some therapy while you're there. And this is our newest endeavor. So I will tell you, I interview the women when they come, and most of the women, human trafficking doesn't start as an adult. It usually starts before that. The average age at this point is 14. So we realized that we needed to open a home for children. And the Wellhouse Child, we started it in 2019. The home has been built. The health department signed off on it. DHR signed off on it. I'm just waiting on 2 more things, the building inspector and the state fire marshal, and we'll be ready to go. And we have a waiting list for that program. So it's a lot to take in. We have many goals for the Wellhouse, but we're really trusting God for his goals. Now, how can you help? Certainly you can pray. Yes. And we exist by donations, but that's not the only way that you can help. So like I said, you're just an hour away from here. Maybe you'd like to put together a little mission trip and come out and see us. You know, men help all the time on the campus. They do stuff like this. It's usually outside, but we always need help. Women, let's see. Yeah, so women are in the building usually and helping in all kinds of ways. I think this group was making soaps together or something. There's no magic thing that you have to do to volunteer and come out. You don't have to teach a Bible study, but you can. These ladies were into makeup, and I think one of them was a Mary Kay consultant, and so she brought all of her things. That was one of the most popular programs we ever had out there. Just beauty, you know, embracing beauty was so wonderful. Here's a group. This was a college group, and you see there's guys and girls there, and they made care packages for Valentine's Day last year, and they were so cute. They just marched through the buildings. We're here, we're here, we're here, and gave those out to the ladies, and it was joyful. It was wonderful. So I'll talk a little bit about what Erin does. So Erin is the manager of our Shopwell program. So Shopwell is our work therapy program. So when ladies come into the Wellhouse, like I said, all their expenses are covered, but they also have the opportunity to interview to work at Shopwell, where if they're accepted, they'll be an employee, they're paid a wage, and they get to do everything from design of the products to assembling the products to maybe helping in marketing. Am I getting that right, Erin? Yeah, and then all of the shipping and things like that done with the project. So really, they do this every Wednesday, and it's one of the nicest days at the Wellhouse because everybody's busy, they're working toward a common goal, they're making a wage. It's just a wonderful thing to support. They're expected to be there on time, they have a uniform that they wear, and it's a wonderful, you can learn more from working at Shopwell than you probably could for any of our job retraining classes, because it's just on-site job skills training and implementation. So if you're interested in talking with Erin about any of those things, that's great. Does anyone have any questions? I would like to share with you, I was thinking about this on my way here today, Psalm 46. So I know that this year God has put that song on my heart to pray for the ladies at the Wellhouse. So I know you have a prayer warriors group.
Amen.
Who's in the prayer warriors group? Okay. This is how I've been praying for the Wellhouse lately. So Psalm 46, it says it's a song. So I think they sang it in temple at some point. It says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with its surging, there's a river whose streams make glad the city of God. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. And I pray that for the ladies, that they would, even in the worst of circumstances, before they get to the Wellhouse, when they're in that dark room and there seems to be no light, that they would know that God is still their refuge and strength, that he is still there to help them and care for them. And that even though the worst thing happens, I mean, I think about it as I drove here today and saw the hills and the mountains. If those things were to melt onto the ground, that would be worst case scenario, right? Well, so they're in their worst case scenario. Even if that happens, we will not fear. That she would not fear. That God would put a peace over her heart and know that the Wellhouse, we're based on water. We're based on the woman at the well, the living water of Christ. There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, and God is within her. Even before she knows God, God will help her at break of day. What happens at break of day, right? Weeping may last for a night, but what? What comes in the morning?
Joy.
Yes, that she could have joy in the morning, that God would rescue her from this situation. The psalm says, nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice, the earth melts. I pray that God melts the hearts of his enemies, that he stops this, that he stops people from taking and exploiting and hurting and killing that is being done with human trafficking. I will tell you about a girl that I met at the Wellhouse. She had a bad family background and she decided to run away. There was a church that was serving a meal, and she went there for the free meal, and her trafficker found her there, and he trafficked her. And by the time I met her, she had little circles all through here, little circles. And do you know what that was? Those were cigarette burns that he did to her. That's force. That's force. She was forced. I think of another girl, and like I said, this happened before the age of 18. Another girl went to school, met some friends. Not a great group of friends. Watch who our kids are hanging out with. They invited her to go on a trip, a weekend trip to Texas. She went, woke up, didn't know where she was, and guess where those friends were? They were gone. They were gone. It was just her. And within 24 hours, she was taken and sold to a trafficker and taken to another state. How do you help human trafficking? You watch your kids. You watch your kids. And she was trafficked for about a year. She got away. She called mom. She called mom, who was praying for her for a year. And she's okay. She's okay. She's healing. But that's fraud. That's what the government means when they talk about fraud. Hey, we're your friend, come with us. Bait and switch. That's fraud. I know of another girl, but below the age of 18, that met someone on her phone, started talking, and he groomed her. She fell in love. She wasn't abducted from a shopping mall. She waited until her parents went to sleep, and she walked out of her house in the middle of the night. How do you stop human trafficking? Try to keep an eye on who your kids are talking to. And she was trafficked. And she's not okay right now. She's not. I think of Psalm 46. And it says, come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow, he shatters the spear, he burns the shields with fire. Pray that God does that.
Amen.
I pray that God does that. Fight those enemies in prayer. He says, be still and know that I am God. I pray that the women that come to the Wellhouse can be still and know that God's in their midst and that God has the power to restore everything that's been lost. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress.
Amen.
So thank you for having me today. I would love to see you out at the Wellhouse.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. about it, and I know that in the state of Alabama, the I-20 corridor and I-85 are two of the most trafficked areas in the state of Alabama. You being closer to I-20, I live right off I-85. But it is a serious, really you could call it an epidemic going through our nation today, and it's in our area. And I think sometimes as people who live in a small community, we lose sight of just how close to home things like this really are. And I think we as believers, it is our responsibility, it is our duty. We talk about UNO, and we're getting ready for Vacation Bible School, as Aaron mentioned UNO, and UNO was there for Vacation Bible School a few years ago about when God, we leave the 99 to find the one that's lost, right? So it's our calling, it's our job, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to be the one that's out there looking for the one that's gone astray. And that doesn't mean just those that went willfully, it means even more so those that were forced to go astray. Amen? These young ladies have no choice. And I've said before, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not preaching a message, but I may preach it for a minute. But I've always said this, the one thing in one area where the church really gets, I think, sometimes wrong, or maybe we don't talk about it enough, or maybe we don't believe in it enough, is that we think that when God saves somebody, it's an overnight sensation and everything's okay. So this young lady comes to the Wellhouse, and miraculously somebody sees her at Burger King and makes the phone call, and all of a sudden she gets in touch with Debbie, and they end up in the Wellhouse, and everything's okay. And we kind of forget that there was a lot of mental trauma that young lady had gone through for we don't know how long. Could have been a year, could have been 5 years, could have been 10 years. But that's not something you overcome in one night. And the good Lord can do it, and the good Lord will do it. But what I really like about what you shared with us today was that you have a prolonged plan to have these young ladies not only taken care of physically, emotionally, spiritually, but more, to me, in that situation, graciously, is mentally. Because you're preparing them to go out into the world and now not only live a productive life, but you can't do that if first you have not been healed psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. And so I think, yes, it's our responsibility as believers to understand first and foremost that this is a serious problem that is only going to continue to grow. I can't remember the CEO of a company this week, but I read it this week. There was a major CEO of a company this week that was arrested for human trafficking. He was wealthy. It wasn't just those that were down and out. It's highfalutin, wealthy, money-making people that have gotten involved in this. And it's our job to be sure that we do what we can do to help. Because at the end of the day, once again, it's our job to find those that are astray, whether it be by choice or lost or forced. And so I thank you for being here. I hope that we will be able to help and support. And then I'm game for going up there one day for a mission trip. I'm for it, so I'm good for it. So thank you again for being here with us. Information back on the table about how they can give donations, all that. Anything you need's back on this table. Go see Erin back there. Talk to her about the well shop, and let's get involved, and let's make sure, number one, that we're taking care of our kids. I mean, having a young daughter, I'm terrified of that anyway, all the time. And if you've got young granddaughters, you should be terrified of that. Make sure you know who your kids are friends with. Make sure you know who they're talking to, and make sure that, I'm grateful in my house that my boys are just about as much of a protector as me and my wife are. They will watch over Bailey and make sure that she's talking to people she needs to talk to, and if she's not, then they're immediately shutting it down. They don't come ask mom and dad. They take care of it themselves. So it's all our job. Amen? It's all our job. So let's go to the Lord in prayer, and then we'll have a time of invitation. And thank you again for being here. And make sure that you let Miss Debbie know how much you appreciate her for being here today. Let's go, Lord.